Who doesn't love The Dark Knight? At this point, The Dark Knight has become so ingrained in our pop culture that it almost goes without saying that it's a masterpiece. The Dark Knight really was, in the eyes of many, the crowning achievement in Batman cinema history. It's the follow-up to Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, and the second in the later named Dark Knight trilogy. The story picks up about a year after Batman Begins, with the Caped Crusader working closely with Gotham PD, led by Commissioner Gordon, and the District Attorney's Office, led by Harvey Dent, to wage their war on Gotham's criminal underworld, and they seem to be doing pretty well. Criminals are running scared. The mob is getting desperate. Their their resources are running out. However, the monkey wrench in this entire operation is this new criminal seemingly without any goals called the Joker, who is this crazy anarchist who will push Batman and his allies to the brinks of where they would be willing to go to defend the common good. As with Batman Begins, the all-star cast does a fantastic job. Christian Bale is still very good as Batman and Bruce Wayne. He still manages to balance the dualities pretty well. He differentiates the two sides of this character. He doesn't really get quite as much to work with as Bruce Wayne this time around, because Bruce Wayne really is just a small part in a much larger conflict. But the way that he handles Bruce Wayne's scenes, you can really tell that he has grown as a person since Batman Begins. As Batman, people probably want me to mention the voice, and frankly, on one hand, I get it. I get why the voice is pretty ridiculous, because it does kind of have this contrast with all the rest of the people who are just speaking normally. However, on the other hand, it does do a good job of disguising Christian Bale's voice and really giving this version of Batman his own identity. Not really a whole lot of people can really gravitate towards this version of Batman, because again, they really don't like his voice. But me, I don't really think it kills any of the scenes that he's in. I don't really think it detracts all that much. It's just something that's not as strong as everything else. Once again, the supporting players like Gary Oldman, Michael Caine, and Morgan Freeman all do spectacularly with their respective roles of Commissioner Gordon, Alfred Pennyworth, and Lucius Fox. They are all, in my opinion, stronger and more confident in these roles than they were last time. They have less to prove this time around. They are well ingrained by this point as these characters. Of course, you can't talk about this movie at all without talking about Heath Ledger's fantastic portrayal of the Joker. And I'm just going to say it right now, Heath Ledger is probably my favorite actor to ever portray the Joker on screen. My favorite Joker, period, is still Mark Hamill doing the voice work, because that is the Joker, that is the perfect voice for the Joker in my opinion. That is the voice I hear whenever I read a Batman comic, which admittedly is not very often, or at least not as much as I want to. But Mark Hamill, as far as I'm concerned, that voice goes hand in hand with the character. But however, Heath Ledger, what really strikes me about his portrayal of the Joker is that it pays homage to the many different portrayals of the character that have been shown in the past, but also you can tell that this is completely different from anything that has been done before. This was a very bold take on the character. This very serious anarchist character. He is very sadistically funny. And unlike Jack Nicholson, who I mentioned having a problem with in the original Tim Burton Batman, Heath Ledger completely transforms. You cannot tell that Heath Ledger is playing this character, and that is not just because of the makeup. Heath Ledger completely changes himself for this character, and he more than earned the numerous accolades and praise that he gained after this movie. And it really is, I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse by saying this, but it really is a shame that he's no longer with us, because he really put his mark on Batman lore in general. I don't really think you can talk about the Joker, or at least not in depth, and not bring up Heath Ledger's portrayal, because it really was groundbreaking. However, to a certain extent, I think I think the fact that Heath Ledger passed before this movie got the chance to be released actually blew some things out of proportion. I'm not saying that Heath Ledger does not deserve all the praise that he gets, but I think one can easily get the impression that he is the only good thing to be found in this movie in terms of performances, because he's really all you see when you look at when you look at any kind of promotional material for this movie. At the forefront, most of the time, is the Joker. However, I think who also does an amazing job is Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, and again, improving on what was botched in the older Batman movies, we actually get to know Harvey Dent this time around. Harvey Dent is in this movie far more than Two-Face. Comic book fans know that he will eventually turn into Two-Face, but the fact that they establish him as this very strong, likable character, this very driven guy who really believes in the best in Gotham and believes in really cleaning up the city, it makes it all the more tragic when he does finally just lose his way. He loses the will to continue on his path as Gotham's White Knight and becomes Two-Face. It makes it all the more impactful. Tommy Lee Jones, we never saw him as Harvey Dent, so we only really associated him with Two-Face. There was no tragedy about that character. You could argue, well, earlier in the series we saw Billy D. Williams' character cast as Harvey Dent. However, that is completely different than Tommy Lee Jones. It may have been in the same series, but it was a different actor and a different take. Something I noticed that this movie improved on was the action scenes. The action scenes they fixed what was wrong with the first movie, and that the action scenes the camera pulls back far enough to where you can see the action scenes, while at the same time, yeah, the cuts are there, but they're not cut and edited in a way where it just feels so rapid fire that again, you can't tell what's going on. You can see the action scenes. You can see Batman just beating up thug after thug after thug with these skills that he's accumulated. And I am so pleased that they improved the fight scenes in this. The fight scenes are impactful. They look real. And as for the other action scenes, namely the chase scenes and the scenes where things get blown up, there is very, very little, if any, CGI. Really, I can only think of one example that actually stuck out like a sore thumb, and it's when a helicopter goes down. They have this big CGI helicopter that goes down and crashes into the streets. That's the only example that I think does not reach the same levels of impact as the other examples of wreckage and chase scenes in the movie. Aside from that, there's a thrilling chase involving the police escorting Harvey Dent in this armored truck and trying to protect him from the Joker, and then Batman gets thrown into the mix, trying to protect Harvey Dent also. The truck, there's the iconic scene from the trailer where you see the truck flip over. That was a sight to behold. There's the scene where the Joker blows up Gotham General Hospital, which again is also a sight to behold. There is a lot of practical effects used in this movie, and in my opinion, that only works to its benefit. There are instances where I feel CGI is necessary, but in photographing Chicago and photographing all of these things that we are supposed to believe are humanly possible, in fitting in with the realistic tone of the movie, I think it really suits the film for these things to be done practically. Aside from that, the film is also paced very well. This movie is about 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 40 minutes maybe, and it does not feel like it, or at least not for the majority of it, because again, it's just paced so well and it flows so well. I mean, each scene flows very well into the next. Yeah, it does kind of broaden the focus a little bit to a bit of an ensemble piece, or at least more of an ensemble piece than we had last time. Whereas the first movie was just kind of was mainly an origin story and kind of a more personal tale. This one is kind of showing what the citizens of Gotham and what the officials and the fighters in Gotham would do if they were met with this anarchist with literally no rules, no principles. However, unlike the Tim Burton version, the supporting characters are interesting. They are in many respects just as entertaining to watch as the Dark Knight himself. I was not complaining that there was not enough Batman in this movie. I was not complaining that there was not enough Bruce Wayne in this movie, because they cut back to him enough to where, yeah, you can still tell it's a Batman movie. I also feel the need to mention the Batsuit in this movie. The Batsuit, for the first time in this entire series, and I'm even including Batman Begins in this, the Batsuit in this looks practical. It looks easy to move around in, or relatively easy. It does not look stiff. It actually looks like this armor that this vigilante figure like Batman would wear to go out and fight crime. It looks like he can remain very agile and mobile. And I think the fact that they do address that the suit in the first one did not really look all that practical, at least from a movement standpoint, I think was a very smart move. And the fact that Batman does switch suits about a third of the way through, again, I think was a pretty intelligent move, because not only is it more believable, is this new Batsuit more believable in combats, but it also reinforces the fact that Batman is a man. He is fallible. He does occasionally need to make adjustments to his formula, to his technology, to best serve his functions. Overall, The Dark Knight is this thrilling roller coaster ride of a movie. If I had to pick some issues with it, I would say that maybe it's a little bit too long by about 10-15 minutes. Some of the Hong Kong stuff could have been cut out. Some of the climax where Batman is fighting the Joker on that building that's still in construction, or at least where he's fighting the Joker's thugs and trying to get past the SWAT teams. I think some of that could have been trimmed to move at a bit of a faster pace. In addition, the ending feels very unnecessary in the grand scheme of things. I mean, after all we have witnessed, yeah, Batman is in a different position than he is in the beginning of the movie, but I think it would have been enough to show that Batman really underwent this very psychological journey. Instead, what we get is him being a seemingly unnecessary martyr. It's not total BS, but I think they went a little bit too far. One final complaint is still the character of Rachel Dawes, who I have to give credit to the movie where credit is due. They at least had the intelligence to actually axe her off this time around. Granted, Maggie Gyllenhaal is a better actress than Katie Holmes, and she does not feel quite as out of place. She at least can measure up to the caliber of her supporting actors. However, again, you cannot make this character interesting, or if you could, then I don't see how, because again, this character is just completely infallible. She is naggy this time around. The character of Rachel Dawes has never interested me in the slightest. Aside from that, you have brilliant acting all around. You have this excellent pace and sense of flowing. You have exhilarating action scenes, and you have an overall finished package that, yeah, it feels more like an ensemble piece, more like a Gotham movie than it does specifically a Batman movie. But the thing is, it is this magnificent piece of comic book filmmaking. It very much deserves to be held in the high regard that it is. It is a very worthy sequel to Batman Begins, and of course I recommend everyone go and watch it. Please.